Hello, everyone. This is the Antimatter Games podcast. I am your host, Chris Jagiris, and with me, as always, is Samantha Jennings.
Hi.
And Matthew Blake.
Hey!
Next gen is upon us! But first, it's time to kill your babies. So I have a list of 10 beloved game franchises, I think in general, but also some of our personal favorites. And the way Kill Your Babies works is we are going to take turns cutting one of those games off the list. And now the lore of Kill Your Babies is once that game is cut, it is erased from history. Every game that is tied to that game is also gone. Understand? So sequels, prequels, offshoots, mods disappear. Everyone understand?
Yep.
All right. Here is the list right here. I'm going to hold it up for you guys so you can see it. Sam and Matt have their own version of it. Sam, you get to go first.
Okay. And do I have to explain why I'm killing it, or just?
If you want to give like a short little snippet, it's up to you.
Okay.
I would say yeah. The game and your reasoning.
I am gonna kill Mech Warrior.
Oof. That's a strike to Matt's heart right away.
I know. One, because I wanted to save Matt the pain later on. Let's just get it done with now.
Yeah.
And two, because I've never played it, so I have no love for Mech Warrior. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fair. I'm just gonna grab a pen to scratch these out. Give me 1 sec.
I knew it as soon as I picked it.
Okay, Mech Warrior. You're going bye-bye. Matt, it's your turn next.
All right.
I know what's going to happen here.
Yeah, well, this is actually not vindictive. But I'm going to kill... Actually, I'm killing God of War.
Ooh.
I'm killing God of War because as great as it is, pretty much everything else on that list inspired something else on that list, right? And God of War is kind of its own thing. There aren't a lot of very good or successful God of War knockoffs. It's kind of its own thing. So for the sake of the game sphere and making the smallest, if I'm going back in time and wiping out something and I don't want to mess up the world, I feel like I can remove God of War and a whole lot of other games just continue to exist. Right?
Fair.
It didn't create a genre, it didn't do its own thing, it doesn't have a bunch of spin-offs, it doesn't have a huge franchise. I mean, really only 4. I know there's 5, but we won't count that one.
All right, I am going to kill Assassin's Creed.
Ugh.
You're gone, Assassin's Creed. It was between that and Pokemon, and I know both are dear to Sam's heart. So I didn't want to strike so deep so quickly.
Oh my god.
Assassin's Creed, not my favorite game. I could take him or leave him over all the other games on this list. Sam.
Ugh. All right.
There is a paradox on this list, but we'll cross that bridge.
I'm gonna go with actually for the same reasons as the first one. I'm gonna go with Half-Life.
Ooh. Ouch.
I'm gonna kill Half-Life.
PC gamers scream out everywhere.
Yeah.
And are suddenly silenced.
Never played it. I know a lot of people love it. I know a lot of people are waiting on Half-Life 3, which is, according to 9gag, never going to happen, but is also inevitably going to happen.
We kind of got Half-Life 3 in the form of Half-Life Alyx, so...
I watched a lot of the Half-Life Alyx gameplay.
Super good.
And it looked... okay.
It looks really cool, and I get why it would be awesome in VR. That's the thing with VR, is you don't know until you have the VR in your head, right?
Yeah.
But any review I've seen of Half-Life Alyx has all been like 10s across the board, basically. So.
Yeah. Well, it's dead.
Half-Life, you're gone.
And so is PC gaming.
Yeah. Matt, is it your turn?
It is. Do you know you'd also wiped out
so.
Titanfall?
Oh yeah, that's right, eh?
Yeah. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Shit. Sorry sorry, Sam. I gotta take out Pokemon. I'm sorry. It's just, again, you take out Pokemon, and like the Pokemon franchise disappears, but there weren't a lot of like imitators. You know, it didn't like create a crazy engine. I mean, maybe there wouldn't be a Game Boy Advanced.
Some people really like Pokemon. Okay?
Apparently, I get that, but it's not like. I mean, there's one game on that list that you just can't touch. Well, we'll get there, but no, unfortunately, like every other game you take out deletes so much. So, yeah.
So all of the rest of the games on the list are really near and dear to me, except for one. I'm going to have to be honest with you, and that's Total War. So Total War, you're gone, because I'll show you for the audience what's left here are some of video games' most beloved franchises.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Sam, your turn.
Okay, the next one is going to be Resident Evil.
Ooh.
Gone. It's gone. And for no particular reason other than I like the other three better.
Fair. Matt, what do you got?
I hate to do it, but I'm gonna have to take Dark Souls out.
Okay, I can respect it.
The Warcraft. Technically, Westwood created RTS with Dune, but Warcraft, the first Warcraft, was the first RTS game with multiplayer. It was modem multiplayer. Think about
Warcraft spawning RTS in general.
Yeah, so the like without Warcraft, and specifically like, and then Warcraft 2, and then Warcraft 3, like you wouldn't get WoW without Warcraft 3. You wouldn't get Warcraft 3 without 2. You wouldn't get the whole RTS genre of the 90s without your first Warcraft being like, hey, look how fun it is to build bases against your friends and fight.
I mean, really, you wouldn't have Dota, you wouldn't have League of Legends, you'd have none of that.
I have no love Dota was a Warcraft 3 mod at first, and I have no real love for World of Warcraft. I tried it at launch. I know it's changed a lot since then, but I whatever, but at the end of the day, it's just too historically important, so Warcraft has to stay, as do the others. Dark Souls. I mean, we lived without Dark Souls for so long.
Yeah. And the last stroke falls with me between Doom and Warcraft. Which will it be? I think, Matt, you just made a very good case for Warcraft, so I'm going to have to kill Doom.
Oh, mistake.
That's fair.
That's a mistake.
Without Doom, we still have Quake.
Nope.
We still have Wolfenstein.
No. Yes, we do have Wolfenstein. We don't have Quake.
Actually, so we at least have Wolfenstein.
Here's the paradox. Without Doom, we actually don't even have Half-Life, because the first Half-Life was built off the Quake engine, which was built by the people who did Doom. So if you take out Doom, you lose basically first-person shooters across the board.
I mean, we already killed Half-Life, so that's fine. I don't know what you're talking about. Half what?
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm just saying, like, yeah, so we lose shooters across the board. And then we also, basically, does anyone even know who Carmack is? We lose VR.
Yeah. It's crazy how influential some of these games are.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. We are going to talk about video games broke my girlfriend. So, 2 days ago, I bought Animal Crossing New Horizons for my Nintendo Switch. Now, I've been seeing lots of Animal Crossing stuff for like the last 2 months, basically since the whole coronavirus thing happened. That's basically when Animal Crossing came out. And it's been huge. I see people tweet about it every day on Twitter. I see stuff all over the gaming, newscape about it. It's very popular. And every day over the last 2 months has brought me closer and closer to buying Animal Crossing. At first, I was like, this isn't for me. I don't buy Nintendo games like that. Like, this looks like it's for kids. And then people just kept making better and better cases for it. And I wanted to play it more and more. And then eventually, Brandon Jones of Easy Allies started visiting community members' islands. And I was like, all right, I think maybe I'm going to give this a shot. And also, we've been streaming a lot lately, and my girlfriend Taylor just, sits behind me and she watches stuff on TV. So I figure, why not give her a video game to try, because she's not really a gamer normally. So I bought it, and over the last 2 days, Taylor has probably played at least 20 hours of Animal Crossing. She's been sending me messages about it and pictures of her kimonos and her fishes that she's caught and our pretty wallpaper in our combined house. Sam, you've been playing it as well. So Sam, why do you think Animal Crossing is so popular right now?
So Animal Crossing is one of those games that lets you do regular everyday things where you actually get rewarded for it, versus your normal life. So you can buy a house and if you collect enough shells, you can pay it off very quickly. A lot of people paying off a house is not going to be something that you actually get to do. You get
Not
to you get to make little friends on your island. Everybody's just super happy. It's menial little tasks that you do throughout the day, except you get like a gold star every time you do one, versus just doing the laundry at your house and no one congratulates you after.
Yeah. Now, Matt, you haven't played Animal Crossing, and
I
you're
have
not. You don't have a Nintendo Switch, but you have played a very similar game called No Man's Sky, which is in a very good place right now. It wasn't at launch, but they've worked on it a lot, and it's super good currently. Now, take out the sci-fi angle and tell me why you like No Man's Sky.
Well, I think, for a lot of the same reasons I like Terraria and Minecraft. It's fun to, like, build a little, go into a random world and carve out a little part of it and be like, this is mine, and build it up and get your things. So, like, I understand the appeal of Animal Crossing. It looks cutesy.
It's very cutesy.
It looks like
Can't deny it.
Whole world is living on a Tootsie Roll. It looks cutesy. It looks fun. It looks very accessible. Unlike any of the games I was using to compare it, I don't think, to my knowledge, you can't die in Animal Crossing.
No, I think you can faint, but then you just wake up at your house again. So
Yeah.
it's very
And,
user
like,
friendly.
is there a punishment for fainting? Like, does someone pick your pockets and take the stuff you had on you when you fainted?
No, it's kind of like fast travel back to your house.
Yeah.
What causes you to faint?
If you get stung by wasps or scorpions or things like that you come across. Yeah.
Okay. So there's bitey
Yeah.
things.
So basically, I just wanted to see the parallels there between two similar games for someone who hasn't experienced Animal Crossing. So personally, it is very similar, I think, to No Man's Sky, to Minecraft, to even Terraria. Whereas for me, you have something to do at all times. You never run out of stuff, and you're always getting rewarded for it. So it's the game where you don't want to go to bed because you could do one more thing. It's like, oh, maybe I'll just go back to my house and put this on the wall. But, I got a reward for that, and now I have some currency, so I can go spend it and buy this. And then wait, if I use this, I can craft that. And if I craft that, I get another reward. And it's just like an endless cycle of dopamine hits from this game. And it's packaged in this pretty little, cute, colorful Nintendo package. And it's just like a joy to be in the world. The music's super relaxing. It's very bright and vibrant. So I get why people are so, I get why people are so into it.
Nintendo finally got those kids hooked the way Joe Camel never could.
I have one complaint about
What's that?
Animal Crossing.
What's that?
So I got it 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And I am at a point now where I'm stuck.
Mhm.
And I have endless things to do, but they are the same things over and over and over again. So at the beginning, you need to open a shop and you have to collect resources for it. And I need 30 iron nuggets.
Yeah.
And I have 6.
Yeah.
And
Is the problem that you don't know how to get iron nuggets?
I have no rocks on my island,
Yeah.
which means I have to keep flying to other islands.
Yes.
And I also didn't know that you could farm them, because 2 different people in the game give you conflicting information that screws you with these rocks. One says you always need to eat so you don't get tired, so you eat your food, And then the other one says you have to smash the rocks. But if you're full and you smash the rocks, they just break, and you only get one item from them.
So I think you just need to use Google more. Really.
Well, I did. It took me I had to go through 6 Reddit feeds to figure out how to farm these rocks, which I still can't do for another 2 days until they all come back. So right now, Animal Crossing is just sitting on my table waiting for rocks to come back.
No. So when you go to you can go to another island as many times as you want, as long as you have the currency you need to do it, and it's really easy.
2,000 Nook things.
So you just do little achievements, and it's really easy to build it up. I've been to 50 islands at this point.
Yeah.
And then you farm the rocks, so they pop out 6 or 7 random items. Some of them are the iron nuggets.
But you have to have zero energy.
Yeah, you don't need to eat ever. That's not a thing you actually need to do.
They told you in the game to eat.
When you're done farming the rocks, you eat an apple to break each one of them to get what's inside. That's how you farm them.
Yeah, I know that now.
Pro strats, right here.
That's the only complaint. Yes, I can farm stuff, and I'm like, okay, great. I gotta go fishing. I gotta catch 5 fish. Okay, cool. I gotta catch 5 fish again. Okay, 5 more fish. I'm like, okay, I'm done fishing. I'm gonna go do the laundry in my real house.
Sam's score for Animal Crossing New Horizons, 5 out of 10. It's time for Stay a While and Listen. It's a big news week this week, and like I said earlier, next gen is upon us. We have a big announcement from Jeff Keighley's Summer Games Fest, and that is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 Remastered was announced. Cue up your Goldfinger and your Primus. It's time to jump back into the warehouse in Tony Hawk. Are you guys excited about this?
Oh yeah, I think this game is definitely going to bring the noise. No, it would be great to revisit. I think actually it's going to be really fun because unlike later games like Skate, Tony Hawk was only a few toes in reality in terms of the tricks and things. Actually. Yeah, no, it was great, but some of the stuff you did in Tony Hawk was just ridiculous. Just bananas, absurd. Sure. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that with great graphics. So I feel halfway through it's just gonna boggle your mind. Because back on the PlayStation, they showed clips of the original in the trailer, which I really loved. And so
you forget how it looked.
But
on PS1.
You knew what every object was at a glance,
Sure.
It did what it needed to do.
It was fine back then.
Yeah. But, when you're going and once you buff your stats up and you hit a ramp and you basically fly for 5 straight minutes doing a series of ridiculous tricks.
Yes.
That's going to look ridiculous. Not to use the word twice, but that's just going to look absurd in great graphics. I can't wait to see that.
I remember there was this one level in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, I think it was. It was called Downhill Run or something, where it was exactly that. You start at the top of this really big hill with tons of jumps on it, and you just hit these insane tricks, one after the other, where you're fucking flying through the goddamn air, because the whole level is just a big ramp.
Or bouncing off of moving taxis.
Sure, yeah. And then they added reverts and they added manuals into it, which were not in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1, so that opens up a lot of your multipliers and trick combinations. Sam, did you play Tony Hawk at all when you were a kid?
Not really. We rented it a couple times. My brother played it a lot. I would kind of sit there and watch and just really enjoyed the soundtrack. So that was actually one thing that I thought was cool in the trailer. They're saying a lot of the old songs will be soundtrack, so there's that kind of nostalgia bit.
It looks like they salvaged most of the the really popular ones.
Yeah. Yeah, but other than that, no, I did not.
So you weren't a skater girl? She said, "See you later, girl."
No.
Really? Well, I was a skater boy. That's for sure.
I just played video games. Do you think Spider-Man will be back?
I think honestly they would be doing a disservice to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 if they didn't have all of those secret unlockable characters like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
For sure. They're going to have it, right?
I'm just thinking there's been a lot of talk since those days about who has the rights to Spider-Man and what can he appear in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty clear Sony has the rights to him now.
Yeah, I guess. They
Yep.
Ooh, will Spider-Man be a PS4 exclusive?
Oh, I wonder. Good question.
Ah,
My bet is on no. To be loved. Everyone loves Spider-Man.
yeah.
Do you remember which one Darth Maul was in?
Um,
Was it 2?
no, it wouldn't have been 2.
I think it was 3 or 4 because people were talking about that on the internet.
Oh,
I
could
saw
have
it, but
been.
Darth Maul was unlockable in
Wow.
3 or 4.
That's ridiculous.
I know. So this comes out on September 4th, and if you pre-order it, I guess a little later in the summer, you get the warehouse demo
Interesting.
for free, which is awesome. My first experience with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 was skipping class in grade 9 and going to the Future Shop beside my first high school, Maryville High School, and playing their PlayStation 1 demo of Tony Hawk's Warehouse level. And man, I skipped a lot of class to play that game. And then for some reason, even though my parents knew I was skipping class, they bought me a PlayStation 1 for Christmas that year, and they got me Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 with it. And that's one of my most cherished gaming memories. I played a lot of that game, man. Holy crap! So I have a list of the top 3 selling Tony Hawk games. What do you guys think they are? 1, 2, and 3.
I think, you know what? I'm going to say 2 number 1, 3 number
Correct.
2,
Yep.
and 1 number 3, unless one of the later ones. Maybe
You're
Underground's
close.
on there.
Just switch around 2 and 3. So number 2 was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1, and number 3 was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. Underground was just below that at number 4, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 is number 5.
Yeah. I knew 2 was the most popular. I'm a little surprised that 3
sure.
sold worse than 1. Just because I feel like 1 got the word out there, but people didn't buy it. They just moved on to 2.
Yeah, I think 3 wasn't as much of like I don't know. I guess they didn't innovate enough. For me, it was really like 1, 2, and then 4 was like the hypest one after that.
Yeah. I just figured like with 3,
Personally.
people just rushed out and bought it because 2 was so good and they just wanted more. But I guess they didn't.
Cool.
Good,
And
good call, customers.
This is from and this is from the same developers that recently did the Insane Trilogy for Crash Bandicoot. Yeah, so they remaster a lot of games actually. And moving on, Ghost of Tsushima. We saw we actually reacted to it on Twitch, a big reveal of their gameplay just yesterday. And I'm really excited for Ghost of Tsushima. I wanted to talk about the environments first. What did you guys think of that? How do you like the world of Tsushima?
What I saw of
Looks
it looked
great.
great. Yeah. A little sparse, but that's nice. That can be nice.
It had this really, I get the sparseness. It had this like beautiful empty feeling to it. Like it was like a big picture. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like a painting with not much in it.
Mhm.
That sounds kind of bad, but it's kind of a good thing.
Yeah, minimalist.
It seems very peaceful and minimalist when you're not stabbing people through the throat.
Yes.
Yeah. It will be nice to have that openness. That was one thing that was kind of weird with Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Actually, I loved the world. I loved that it was open world, but everything felt too close together.
Mhm.
Like it'd be like, okay, you need to go to this town, and you're like, ooh, I know that's really far away, and you're like, nope, it's right there, and you're like, okay, it's 400 meters away.
Yeah.
And that kind of took away from some of the openness when everything is very like a very large map, but everything's right there. So it'll be nice to actually have to, I'm assuming, get on your horse and ride for a while to get to where you're going. So that'll be kind of cool.
You know what? I hope so. I really like. I blame World of Warcraft for this. I've always really liked hopping on my mount and actually feeling like I'm traveling somewhere real. You know what I mean? That takes more than 2 minutes to get there. The
Sandwich
journey's
rate.
the journey's part of the immersion
Yeah.
for me.
Well,
For
it's,
sure.
it's a fine line, right? Because you don't want people getting frustrated, or feel like all they're doing is traveling. But at the same
Yep.
time, you don't want to pack things together and create a world that's like Sam was saying. So
I think it would be a disservice to that game to make it quick like that.
And
you
it
know?
seems like it does have a fast travel option. So I like when it takes a while to get somewhere the first time. So you
Mhm.
actually feel like you had to journey there. Once you get there, you can kind of zip back and forth between if you want, or if you want to take the long way, you can. So and it looks like it had a fast travel option as well. I'm assuming there's one.
As far as fast travel goes, I really hope they go the route of Red Dead Redemption 2, whereas so you can't just go to a place for the first time and then once you've been there you unlock fast travel. You only get fast travel maybe halfway through that game of Red Dead, and it's like a 80-hour game. So you really earn the fast travel, and by the time you get it, you've already really had to experience the entire world and see everything, you know, by each pace. So I hope they do that. I wanna be forced to really look at every corner of Ghost of Tsushima before I can just jump between the points. That kind of cheapens the experience for me, to be honest with you.
It'll be interesting to see, because I also know that, like, you really enjoyed that with Red Dead. From what I've read, though, a lot of people didn't. They found that like a real turnoff for the game for them. So I can
It's
understand.
very, very divisive.
Yeah, I understand. Like when we saw him collecting crafting materials in the demo yesterday, and Chris, you made a comment about how you liked in Red Dead how there's an animation every time you collect it. That can work as long as you're not having to collect large amounts of things. But if you're going out and it's like, get 12 bundles of sticks, and then you're just like watching it over and over and over again, it's like it's cool the first few times, but
That's like in Animal Crossing yesterday. I was trying to make a bunch of like log sticks so I could line my garden and then fence it in, and I needed like 20 of them, and I had to craft all 20 of them individually. There was no
they don't let you
option to
stack.
be like, I have 60, just let me make 20. And it was like, nope, you're going to watch it, and then you're going to turn around and you're go, I made sticks. And I'm like, I know. 19 more times. Let's go.
But it's so cute, though.
Animations. A double-edged
Matt,
sword.
why don't you tell us about the combat?
Yeah, so it seems like combat is split into two styles. One more upfront, like you announce yourself. You can have a little standoff, which I thought was really cool.
Samurai.
Yeah, and then it seems like you can switch stances for different little combat situations, but you basically announce yourself, you're there. It's a really interesting kind of counter-focused style where you'll just stand there and let them make the first move and then seemingly like one-hit them. Though it looks like that's not the only way. And then on the other hand, you've got kind of a stealth style that relies a lot on like backstabbing, distractions, catching them off guard, putting them down very quickly. And interestingly enough, it seems there's a fear system when you're in really that mode, the Ghost, they called it, where I guess as you get known to your enemies, we saw one guy he struck down some guy and he turned around and there were two soldiers there. One, I believe, put up a fight. The other one just fell on his ass and started cowering and crawling away without losing sight of him. And that's interesting. It looks like they've got a little play style for everyone, or if not everyone, two major camps. And that's going to be interesting. Now
Sorry, go ahead.
I heard that the Ghost playstyle, this was a long time ago and I may be misremembering, will only be available at night.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So during the day, basically you're basically kind of like a Batman type thing, except Bruce Wayne version is a samurai. So, your samurai, as a samurai, it's very dishonorable to play the Ghost style. So you're basically your two personas and you have to keep them apart. So when you dress as the samurai and you fight honorably, you build up like an honor thing, and that will affect how people respond to you in towns and stuff. Whereas as you play as the Ghost, you'll build up kind of like a dishonor but fear thing, and never the two shall meet. You can't let people know that you, the honorable samurai, are also the dishonorable Ghost. So I don't know. I might be wrong.
What I was thinking for that, because I didn't hear that anywhere. What I was imagining, at least, is that you would start the game as the noble samurai, and then at some point, have an epic battle or be backstabbed or betrayed, and then rise up this punished warrior who becomes, the shady ninja.
The Ghost.
And then the ghost, and then you're him for the latter part of the game. That's what I got. It's kind of like in Sekiro, you're Wolf, and then Genichiro cuts off your arm, and then you kind of come back from the dead in a sense. I'm thinking that's what's going to happen with Tsushima.
Yeah, I'm just glancing at my phone to see if I can.
Sam, why don't you tell us about
No,
the cool little film effect that they put in there? Remember that?
Ooh, yeah. So I don't remember what they called it. Was it like samurai mode?
It was like film mode or classic mode or something like that.
Yeah, something very cool where there's basically like a filter on the game, and it's black and white, very nice, a little bit of grainy kind of look to it, highly saturated as well, and it just looks awesome. Like, it makes watching anything in black and white is so much better, and it just gives it this really cool, like, old samurai type of feel. And I'm very excited for it. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of pictures taken. I'm sure mode. Tons of pictures taken like that. But it looked really cool. The one thing I missed though, can you do that at any point in time, or was it only for certain?
No, so they said you can play the whole game like that.
Done.
You can turn it on right from the start, turn the subtitles off, just have Japanese dialogue, and play it like a classic Japanese movie.
Are we doing that over again?
Done.
No, that was okay. That was okay. Wasn't too bad. All right, so next on the docket, Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest comes in hot with a big reveal. Now, we talked about Summer Games Fest last week because it was only just announced last week, and we've done a lot of conversation about, is E3 relevant anymore? Are we going to have more E3s? And it looks like so far we don't need E3 anymore. Jeff Keighley's been sitting down with all these big studio heads and developers and having all these huge game reveals. And the first one that they came out with was he sat down with Tim Sweeney and his two other top guys, and they unveiled the Unreal Engine 5. Now, this looked amazing. I think I teared up probably watching the video the first time. I'm embarrassed to say, but it was just beautiful. Like, it looked like I was finally seeing next generation graphics, and the topic's very divisive. You have a lot of people saying, well, oh no, like, don't expect games to be like this next year or even in the next 5 years. Like, that was just a tech demo. And you have people saying, finally, we've seen next gen, and you have people everywhere in between. A lot of self-proclaimed tech gurus and stuff like that. So it's a really hot button issue, but for myself personally, it gave me a lot of hope for the next gen. And when you think about it, we haven't actually seen a real next gen game yet, right? We've seen a lot of crossplay games that Xbox showed us. The first game they showed in their little event that they had last week was basically a glorified tech demo anyway. It was very pretty. But what that Unreal Engine demo had was a lot more. It was way meatier. It was just super impressive. Matt, why don't you tell us about it? Because I know you're kind of at odds.
Well, yeah. I mean, I looked at it and it was very, very impressive, and it looked really, really, really good. But like, something at the back of my head was like, this is a little too good, like. But you already kind of touched on that. Like, games will not look like this for a few years. And I think
the
that's
point is,
right.
We don't really know what games are going to look like yet. We're kind of waiting for PlayStation's event to hopefully see some first-party games that are going to be on the PS5 that aren't cross-play.
Yeah, so... And I realize this cross-play thing is not new. Assassin's Creed Black Flag was one famous example from last generation. Came out on PS3, and then they were like, hey, it's on PS4, and it looks a little better, but it was designed for PS3. What interested me the most is the lighting system. Not because of how it looked, but because of the time it could theoretically save. You know, they made a big thing of moving the light around and being like, there's no, you know, alpha maps. There's no baked in lighting. They didn't have to go over all these rocks and be like, this part obscures this part and this and this, and this is how the shaders look.
Yeah.
It just works. So that should save the art department a long time and actually get us graphics like that in a final product sooner.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. It looks really good. But, you know, the camera, they move the camera, with the exception of the end, pretty much whenever you're looking at something very fantastic, the camera is not moving very fast. Which could be a limitation they're hiding.
Except for the very end, though. The very end.
The very end, the camera moves extremely fast, but it's
Yeah.
also kind of motion blurred. And
I would say still, even though the lady's flying through the air quite quickly, so there's going to be some motion blur. But I would say, even though there was, the level of detail that you saw in like the canyon that she was flying through, for me was like shocking. There was so much stuff.
It's a tech demo of a new graphics engine for a new system. Yeah, it looks good. Yeah, no, I'm just, you know, I've had my heart broken so many times. I'd rather, you know, I'd rather take a look at this a little more cynically and then be pleasantly surprised than get really, really excited and then be a little disappointed.
So I'd like to talk about the Unreal Engine 4 demo that came out. I think it was in 2013, right? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 2013. I fact-checked it earlier. So I went back and looked at it because there was controversy over this video. And, you know, at the time, I remember watching that for the first time and also going, holy shit, this looks amazing. And like sending it to all my friends and be like, look what the PS4 is going to be like. And looking back at it, when you compare it to games like God of War and Horizon Zero Dawn and Death Stranding that you can play in 4K in 60 frames a second, I can really say that PS4 got there and maybe a little better.
Yeah.
For me, God of War, the 2018 one, was the first game that I played on a 4K screen. So during that game, like the lighting effects and the resolution were breathtaking. Like that game, and then Horizon Zero Dawn after it, and then Death Stranding after it, were the first games that I took a knee and just looked at the environment. I would see like a vista or like a cave wall or whatever, and just stop and pan my camera around because it was so damn pretty. You know, so I think it's clear from the Unreal Engine 4 demo that we can get there with Unreal Engine 5. Is it going to happen right away? Who's to know?
I remember having that same experience in Uncharted 4.
Oh, Uncharted 4 is beautiful. Yeah.
I think it was I want to say it's chapter 6 or chapter 7, but it's when you go to that like mansion in Italy and you have to climb down the rocks, and before you go and meet Sully, you're in that it's either like oranges or lemons. It's a little little garden, and I took like 5 or 6 photos there, and I stood there and I just kept zooming around and like watching the sun, and like I stood in that garden for about 20 minutes just looking around at stuff, and that moment will always stick out with me.
Take a moment with the citrus.
This is what makes me really excited for The Last of Us 2. Just from a graphical standpoint, is Naughty Dog did that, I think 5 years ago now. Uncharted 4 came out.
It's been a while. Yeah,
they've had 5 years to work on The Last of Us Part 2. Can you imagine how good that game is going to look?
It's going to be probably going to be a cross-gen game.
Oh my god, it's going to look so good. And you can bet your butt there's going to be a remaster or a PS5 version of that for sure. You know, up-resed and all that. I just had a little snippet from Tim Sweeney I wanted to read here. If, you know, in case anyone's listening that is more tech-savvy, at least than we are. I think Matt is definitely the most tech-savvy.
Yeah, that's not saying that much.
No. All right, so this is from Tim Sweeney. He gave this interview after the Summer Games Fest stream with Keeley. So he's talking about Nanite. Frees developers from having to worry about polygon count and levels of detail. It enables you to author all the content in the game at its full movie quality level of resolution. Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney told Engadget, and then rely on the game engine to scale it down so it runs in real time on every device. We are rendering content that was sourced from billions of source polygons into representation on screen that is indistinguishable from reality. That's the neat principle here, he continued. Once you break triangles down to the size of a pixel, you can't really achieve any more detail by rendering more of them because you've already achieved all the detail. Where was I? All the detail your screen is capable of displaying and your eyes are capable of seeing. So we've hit this magical threshold where this is all the detail that can exist until you get a higher resolution monitor, until 8K or 16K becomes available. Sounds
It's a
pretty
lot
cool.
of K.
That's a lot of
8K
K.
or 16K. I personally think we're a long ways off from 8K.
Oh yeah,
Big time.
for like not only technical but like practical reasons. You know.
Yep.
People have invested too much in 4K. We got to get everyone with a 4K before we start thinking about 8K. I mean, there's probably some enthusiasts out there that'll jump at it, but
Yeah. I also wanted to hit one more angle of this, which is the PC versus console angle. Now, Tim Sweeney also said in a quote that the SSD in the PS5 dev unit that this demo was running on, now that's another big catch, is that they stated multiple times that this is HDMI cable into the computer. That tech demo was running on a PlayStation 5. Real time, being played by somebody with a controller. It can be played multiple times. It changes every time you play it. So that's what makes me think, this maybe isn't a couple years off. Maybe this is sooner than we think. Anyway, he made a comment about the SSD in the PS5 being much faster than anything that's available in the PC market right now. Matt, what do you think about that statement as an avid PC gamer?
I believe it, but I feel like it's one of those things. Like the thing is right now, right?
Yep.
I have a hard time believing that there's any manufacturer, and I'm not sure if we know who the manufacturer of the SSD is, who's going to get some kind of groundbreaking technology and then be like, for a console only. There's probably some kind of timed thing. Maybe Sony is paid to be exclusive for a certain amount.
Oh, maybe.
But
they have lots of money.
But at the end of the day, like even PC gaming aside, VFX studios, there's just so many. That kind of read speed is just so practical for so many gaming and non-gaming applications that I can't see something that's actually that god tier, is how PC Gamer put it, remaining exclusive to a console for a considerable period of time. I don't know. It's definitely a god tier SSD. It's definitely some crazy technology. But I mean, shit, man, Sony makes laptops. Eventually they're going to want to put them in laptops and get that market.
So it's fun. It's funny because
Sam looks frozen.
We saw this tech demo. Just give her a second. We saw this tech demo, and immediately I'm thinking, how much more amazing that looks than anything we have currently, console or PC, and how much more powerful my PS5 is going to be than your run-of-the-mill high-end gaming PC. But then with every action, PCs have a equal and opposite reaction. And yesterday, the NVIDIA 3000 series card was unveiled, and it's supposed to be 40 times faster than the current 2080 Ti, which is the top end card for NVIDIA currently, the top end GPU. So there's PC's answer. Like, I can't imagine, what that card's going to be like, but I'm assuming it's going to run all of those next gen console games just as well as any Xbox or PlayStation.
Yeah, and actually there's a separate thing going on, and I'm just going to quickly confirm. You know what? I'll confirm after. I believe ATI is making the graphics cards and the processors for Sony, right?
For the consoles, yeah.
So ATI and NVIDIA are competitors. So, you know, ATI's like, hey, check out, like, we're back in this big system, and then their competitor is like, well, check out our giant honking graphics card. Suck it. And so there's like the PC console thing going on, but at the end of the day, it's also two big graphics card manufacturers kind of squaring off, as they do. They keep each other honest.
Posturing.
Yeah. But again, a really, really powerful graphics card can only process data as fast as it can read it. So, you know, you need that solid state drive to pull that data.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see.
And I'm sure we'll hear about those as well in the next coming months for PC. All right, some honorable mentions for you. Also, this week announced Mafia Definitive Edition. So that's Mafia 1, 2, and 3 in glorious 2K resolution. I haven't played any of the Mafia games. Have you guys?
I played Mafia 2. I played a bit of Mafia 1. I beat Mafia 2. I found that one like compelling enough to get through. Really good story. Very empty open world. Like there was a lot of places to go, but it's not like GTA where like you're driving around and you see little side mission things all over, and then there's the main one. There's the main mission, and it'll drag you all over town. But
you were saying they were trying to jump on the open world kind of bandwagon.
Yeah, I mean the first one was an open world game as well.
Yep.
But I feel like the second one, they committed to open world without realizing that what makes an open world game work is the ability to look over there and go, my mission's over there, what's over here, and have there be something. But you know, you had good cover-based shooting, you know, good destructibility, good story.
Yeah. I've seen some of the screenshots for this. They're really pretty. Like it looks like it's going to be, if you're a fan of the Mafia series, this will be a treat for you. Also, honorable mention, Paper Mario and the Origami King was announced. I think it was like 2 days ago. And this is really cool. It's coming out in a month. It's really rare that you get a new game from a big studio that comes out 1 month later. It's coming out July 17th.
That's some Bethesda shit right there.
Yeah, that's also 2 days before The Last of Us Part 2, so they're going to have some competition.
I will probably get it.
You're going to get Paper Mario?
Yeah, I played the first Paper Mario on Nintendo Wii, and it was one of the most enjoyable games I've ever played.
Okay. Yeah, people love Paper Mario. I know that for sure.
So fun. Like, it's cute little puzzles. The world looks great. The pacing is amazing. You never get bored. It's the exact amount of length of game. Like, it was one of the most enjoyable games I've ever played. I don't think there was ever a moment where I was like, this level kind of sucks. Like, it was fun. It was a 10 out of 10, start to finish.
Cool. I know Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door is like one of the highest rated games of all time. So, Matt, have you played any Paper Mario games?
No, I can't say that I have, but I will point out that, Nintendo released Animal Crossing same day as Doom Eternal.
And that was great. There's a lot
and that worked out really well for them. And I don't think that like the Paper Mario crowd and the Last of Us crowd, I don't think that Venn diagram overlaps much. It's like, I'm going to go, I want brutal violence and the Origami King, like, obviously there is some overlap in this very chat, but, I think it'll be pretty good. And again, you got that captive audience, and we know from the state of the shelves that a lot of them have Switches.
Lots of Switches around.
Yeah.
All right, and lastly, in our honorable mentions, Terraria gets a big old send-off patch.
Yeah, the Journey's End update. It adds a lot, like too much to go into now. Like over 1,000 items, reworks of other things. The changelog is like 50 pages long and full of GIFs to demonstrate the changes. A huge art rework. Still keeping the style, but just all the sprites look a little more detailed, have a little more shadow to them. I was checking them out. New backgrounds, new music, it's a great way to say, hey, you know what? We've been around for 9 years and sold 30 million copies as of April. And just giving the game a nice little polishing it up and putting it on the shelf and saying, "There it is. We're done." Yeah, I'm going to be playing it.
If you're a fan of Terraria, be excited. All right, it's time for our top 10 favorite games of all time.
Woo, woo.
Last week, we did number 10, 9, and 8 for each of us. Let's go over what they were so we can keep up anyone who wasn't listening, if you guys remember, hopefully.
I have the list here. Yeah.
All right, mine were Super Mario World 2. Number 9 was Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. And number 8 was Doom 2. Sam?
My number 10 was Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. Number 9 was Mass Effect 2. And number 8 was Okami.
All right. My number 10 was Payday 2. My number 9 was Homeworld. My number 8 was Minecraft.
All right. So let's start with Sam this week. Sam, why don't you tell us what your next favorite game of all time is?
All right. So this would be number 7. So my number 7 is Doom from 2016.
Nice.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist. We erased the franchise.
That's true.
Well, then my whole list is invalid. Yeah, so Doom. It was, I don't remember why I bought it at first. Like, I'd never played.
I told you to buy it.
That's probably it. I feel like a lot of the games on this list fall into that category.
Yep.
Yeah, so I guess I bought it because you told me to buy it. And it was super fun. It was one of those games where it was the first game that I actually had to take breaks from. Because I'd sit there for about an hour and a half. I'd hit 2 hours and I could feel like my heart just like beating against my ribcage, and I'd have to get up and like walk away. But the pace of it was one of the first games where there was like, I had no idea what the story was. I had no idea what was going on. All I know is like, I woke up in this room, I grabbed a gun, kicked down a door, and started shooting things within the first literally 10 seconds of this game booting up. And within an hour, I had a chainsaw, and it was just all of the things that I wanted with none of the filler. It's like Kill Bill episode 1. It's just all the violence, and you're like, you can get the story later if you want. It was just straight violence, and I loved it. And the soundtrack was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was it. I could go on forever about this game, but Doom.
Number 6.
Number 6 is Borderlands 2.
Okay.
Which is very closely being followed by Borderlands 3, which we just started a couple weeks ago. But yeah, Borderlands, very similar reasons actually. It's got an aesthetic that I love. It's just super violent, super crass. The music is great. The characters are awesome. It's just everybody's living in this wasteland where nobody gives a shit about anything. You're just murdering people because you need $5, and they're cool with it, which is always the weird thing. But I love the aesthetic. It's got that cell shading to it, which is absolutely amazing. And it's fun. It's just so much fun. And the multiplayer aspect to it, with a lot of games, sometimes the multiplayer is weird. It's like you have to be, like Dark Souls, we were talking earlier, it's like you have to be past this boss to be able to come into my game and all this stuff. There's none of that with Borderlands. Literally just grab whatever character you want, wherever they're at in their story, jump into my game, and it's so fun.
Number 5.
And my number 5 is Assassin's Creed 2. So Assassin's Creed 2, I was going to put a lot of Assassin's Creed on here, but then I realized I actually don't love this as much as I thought I did. I actually haven't played Assassin's Creed 3 at all. I looked at my trophies for Black Flag. I played half of that game and stopped. And I never played Origin. So I thought I had played all of them. But Assassin's Creed 2. So Assassin's Creed 2 is where my love for the whole franchise came from. And it's Ezio. Ezio is the best assassin by far. He's also one of the assassins that you get to stick with the longest. So I like when you get to see a character grow, and you get that with Ezio, whereas you don't with any the other ones. You have Ezio as like just joining, becoming an assassin. First one. You have Brotherhood after that. You have Revelations where you get to see him. Essentially, he dies at the end, so you see his entire life. But it was amazing.
Is that
It
what
was one of
happened
the
at the end of
first
that
games.
game?
Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely beat that game. I did not remember that.
Yeah, Revelations. It's the one where he's old and he has a beard.
Yeah,
Like,
I know,
you
and he's in
remember it.
Constantinople.
So attractive. But yeah, you're climbing up all these buildings. The environment is amazing. It takes place in Florence and a lot of like the surrounding areas in Italy, and it's just absolutely. And it is the reason I love Assassin's.
Okay. Matt, how about you?
All right. Well, number 7, Super Mario World 2: Yoshi's Island.
Nice.
I was going to
That was
put
my
Super
number.
Mario World on there, but one, I think Chris already got that. And two, I mean, Super Mario World is a classic. It was the first console game I ever owned. But Super Mario World 2: Yoshi's Island is just so freaking weird and beautiful. And, like, even with Baby Mario screaming in your ear for, like, at least 15 to 20% of that game, yeah, it was so creative. I love the art style. I love the expanded moveset. I love the fact that there are hallucinogenic spores in one level that just, as a kid, I totally didn't get that. But then I'm playing it in high school. I'm like, touch fuzzy, get dizzy. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's got that replayability. At the end of every level, it shows you, like, all the red coins, the stars, and, like, the big sunflowers, I think it is. And it'll, like, score you. And you have a reason to go back to that level to find that little thing you missed. And get that perfect run where you don't lose any stars, you know? Yeah, it's near and dear to me, and I'm sure there's some Super Nintendo game rolling around in its box over there, being like, you forgot me, but I did, so...
Sorry.
Yep.
Number 6?
Number 6, Warcraft 2.
Ooh, nice.
Warcraft Orcs and Humans was great, and I definitely have, like, that was probably, that and Command & Conquer were, like, my first ever RTS experiences. But Warcraft 2 just looked better, sounded better, you could control upwards of 9 units at once, which, woo, big step up from the 4 you could control in the first Warcraft. Really let you get a good army going. And also it brought, like, dwarves and elves and trolls and, like, you know, the first one was just orcs, just humans. Yeah. Oh, and ogres in missions, but not in multiplayer. Yeah. Ogres. 2-headed ogres. Yeah. It was live. It had a great expansion. If you took the CD and put it in a CD player, you could listen to the soundtrack. Just skip track 1. That was data. And, yeah, I got the Warcraft battle chest in, I don't know, I want to say grade 4 or 5, maybe 6. Not sure. Played the hell out of it. Was amazing.
I want to ask you before you move on to your next one, I'm curious why you didn't pick Warcraft 3 and the Frozen Throne, which I think is most people's favorite Warcraft RTS.
Warcraft 3, the mods were great. The fan-made levels were great. The FMVs were great. But Warcraft 3 was where the series started to lose me a bit. They added in the undead and the night elves, which at first I was like, cool. But the other big thing was it brought it brought the unit count down, and it added what would become its biggest feature, which was unit abilities, like in Dota, like, you know, like the night elf, I don't know, they had some people riding panthers and they could throw nets and immobilize enemies. But because it made the jump to 3D, they had to bring the unit count down to run on systems. And in order to do that, they introduced the upkeep system, whereas the more units you have, the less resources you get. So, you send your guy to the gold mine, he comes back with 10 gold, you get 10. But then you get your army up to a very, very low number, and all of a sudden they're only bringing back 6. And then once you start getting a big army, they're only bringing back 4. And it really, a big part of RTS for me is building a big army and a big base. And Warcraft 3 went an opposite direction, so I actually really did not enjoy the campaign nearly as much. It was a much more like micro with a few units than build up a big army.
Okay.
So that's why 3 is not on the list.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then your next one.
Also, 3 created Dota, and that created League, and fuck MOBAs. MOBAs killed RTS, so 3 is like the bastard son. 3 is Arthas. It shows up and it's all blonde and pretty, but then it goes away for a while, comes back all haggard, and fucks up the world.
You heard it here first, folks. Fuck MOBA.
Yeah. If you enjoy them, that's great. Power to you.
Nope. Too bad. All right, Matt. Last one.
Last one, number 5, Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver.
Great game.
Great game. And the first game I ever... So, I played Resident Evil, and that was like, okay, it's got a story, and it's definitely mature, and it even has some live-action cutscenes that they ditched after the first one, but, it was great, and that was probably the first time I got a story through a game, and, it would stop and tell me story, and it was like, okay, I'm on board. But once I played Soul Reaver and got all that, but with competent voice acting, that was the big... They had Michael Bell, who did, a bunch of the Transformers and some G.I. Joes and was Papa Smurf, and you got Tony Jay, who was that big, deep-voiced guy who did Megabyte and Reboot as the Elder God. You got Simon Templeman, or Templeton, I'll look it up after. He was Tyr Loghain in Dragon Age Origins. He was the villain guy in the first Uncharted. He has that kind of British, menacing voice. Yeah. And just the writing. It was Amy Hennig who was behind Soul Reaver. So she went on to create the Uncharted series as well. So you have that kind of great adventure, great voice acting, amazing writing. Some of the lines still to this day. And this haunting music that it still works. I played playing actually Dark Souls 3 with Chris. I remember we put it on for a boss fight in one of the DLCs, and it just worked perfectly and actually synced with the intro.
The last boss fight,
yeah, Soul Reaver, and it was too big for its britches. It ended up having a sequel to finish the story. They didn't fit it all in, but some little aspects of stuff that they never put in the game remained as secrets, and you could find little hidden areas that were half-cut content, half bonus. It was really, really good. So Soul Reaver was the first time I actually played a game and was this was a good, well-told story. I think video games can tell stories in the future. I think that's the way this is going. It's not just about points and lives. And that person went on to make Uncharted, so yeah.
There you go. All right. My number 7 is Gran Turismo 3 A-Spec. Now, this game is tied to some very happy video gaming memories for me, which I think is why it ultimately made the list. So when I got my PlayStation 3 for Christmas, the only 2 video game consoles I ever got for Christmas were the PlayStation 1 and the PlayStation 3. Wait, no, sorry. Was it the 3 or the 2? A-Spec. Oh, it's right here. Never mind. PlayStation 2. It came with the PlayStation 2. So for me, I had played Gran Turismo 1 and Gran Turismo 2 in my grandparents' basement on my uncle's PlayStation 1. And I've always loved cars my whole life, and car culture and modifying and racing and all that kind of stuff. So as a younger kid playing the first Gran Turismo and the second one, I had a lot of fun when my uncle would let me play them, but I was only allowed to play them sparingly. And then my parents bought me the PS2, and it came with Gran Turismo 3 A-Spec. And that was one of those like generational leaps where I plugged it in, took it out of the box, and I played it for the first time. And the first car that I picked was a blue Mazda Miata MX-5, and my mom had the same car at the time. That's why I picked it. And I remember calling her down to tell her how real the Miata looked. And I was just racing around this track. Spoilers, it didn't. I've gone back and played that game. It looks pretty bad. But at the time, it looked like a real Mazda Miata, goddammit. And I spent the entire summer working at my parents' deli with my next door neighbor. And we would sit in the back and we would fantasize about what modifications we were going to buy when we got home for this car or that car, or like what races we're going to do to get this amount of money to like put this turbocharger on this car and give it this much horsepower. And I remember the modifications you did would, like, you know, they'd change the engine note. It would be noticeably faster. It would handle that much better if you put stickier tires on it. And they had just like, I don't know, a stupid amount of cars, like 500 or 600 cars in there of all kinds of different makes. And I spent, my God, like at least a solid year playing that game nonstop. So I would say, like, as far as total hours in, it's probably one of my most deeply time invested games I've ever played. And I think that's why it earned a spot on my list. Number 6 is a new game, Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, I didn't play a lot of Red Dead Redemption 1, and I never played Red Dead Revolver. So for me, this was kind of like a Last of Us thing. I'm really excited for The Last of Us Part 2, but I only dabbled in the first one. And I'm really excited just because of how great the story looks and how good the game looks. And for some reason, the first one didn't grab me like that. So at this point, Grand Theft Auto 5 was out. That's an amazing game. So I knew anything Rockstar was going to do after that point was going to be equally as amazing. And say what you will, Red Dead 2 is a very divisive game. But for me personally, I love it. And Red Dead 2 is not a fast game. It is very slow paced. There is, I think, 7 or 8 main game chapters, and there is an epilogue after where you play as a completely different protagonist. Now, the main game you play as Arthur Morgan, and by the time you get to the last chapter as Arthur, you really feel like you know him, and you really feel connected with the guy and his whole gang, and they really pay attention to detail. You can go up to any one of the gang members, and you don't need to press X or triangle to talk to them. They'll just start talking to you, and you can have a conversation with them. And sometimes it'll lead into a mission, and sometimes you'll just end up singing around the campfire. And a lot of the game is like that. Like, even by the end of the game, your horse dies, right? And you've had this horse most likely throughout most of the game. Like, I shed a tear when the goddamn horse died because they made it so sad. A lot of moments in this game were probably the most cinematic moments I've ever experienced in video games. They were very much more akin to a very good film than they were a game for me. And I think that's one thing Red Dead does really well. Another reason why I like Red Dead is just attention to detail in an open world game. Now, if you want to clean your gun, Arthur Morgan, you play as John Marston later. Arthur Morgan takes out his gun, he holds it up to his face, and you can examine that gun, every little nook and cranny. You can open the, you take the clip out, whatever.
Cylinder.
You can clean, the cylinder. You can clean every little piece of it. If you go into a store and you want to buy something, they have an entire catalog that's like 50 pages deep, and you can skim through each page to decide what kind of beans or ammo or horse saddle that you want to buy. And that's throughout every store in the entire game. If you skin an animal, you see Arthur pull out his knife, cut the skin down the animal's stomach, and actually peel the skin off this animal. He rolls it up, he pushes it into the back of his horse saddle, ties it, and then hops onto the horse. Like, it just really makes you believe that you're in this world, and I really appreciate it for that. And my last one is
Side note,
Resident. Yeah.
Because you were talking about detail, I actually saw a little Reddit thread yesterday, I think it was, where someone noticed that when Arthur reloads in that, his mouth is moving, and someone like took a closer look at it, and he's counting to himself. He's counting off the bullets as he loads them.
Amazing.
And like he doesn't say it out loud,
yeah.
but you can see him like under his breath, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, like
yeah. That's amazing. And there's tons of examples like that in the game. Just like him like randomly like patting his horse and whispering to it when he's riding, if like the horse is being good or not. Anyway, so moving on. My last one is Resident Evil 4. This is a very good video game. And this is one of those video games, I think, unlike Red Dead 2 or Gran Turismo, that was heavily influential on all games after it. It was one of the first games, I'm not sure if it was the first, or at least the first to do it really well, to have that over-the-shoulder third-person shooter angle that, tons of games have that now. It was one of the first to do it really well, I think, and I have a lot of good memories playing it. I played it for the first time on the GameCube, and then I went back 2 years ago and I played it on the Wii with the motion controls, which is actually, I think, my preferred experience. It was a lot easier and it was a lot more fun using, just the Wii motion controls and aiming with your hand as opposed to the stick. It was kind of clunky before that when you had to use the thumbsticks. The atmosphere is great in this game. It was very spooky at the time. The villager and Las Plagas, and it was over the top. You could take it seriously at points. It kind of had everything going. You were able to customize all of your weapons. The Stranger is a legendary video game character who I quote all the time. I really like Leon, the protagonist, and he's the same guy from Resident Evil 2. And he's good in both. And they're making a remake of it soon too, which I'm really excited for. And yeah, I think that's it. Unless anyone has anything to add.
Was this not Salazar? Salazar was the little one, right?
Yeah.
Who was the big one? Lord Sadler.
Oh, yeah.
Sadler. Sadler, you're small time. Ha ha ha. Writhe in my cage of torment, my friend. Classic RE2.
Yeah.
Like, I hope the remake has those, like, ridiculous lines.
That's what's great about RE4 is that it can be very, like, horror-driven, and it can be super cheese at the same time. And it does both of them really well. All right, it's time for bets.
Awesome.
Tonight, the three of us will be doing a stream on Twitch. We're doing a group stream of Dark Souls 3. By the end of the night, how many total deaths will we have? Sam.
I'm guessing 33.
Oh, shit. That's a lot of deaths. Matt.
26.
Nice. And I think we're going to have 8 deaths.
As the whole group?
Yeah, I went low. Like, we're all Souls veterans, especially me and Matt, so.
Yeah, but I'm going to get drunk and do stupid shit.
That's true.
Are there going to be additional drinking rules?
We'll have to figure that out later.
I'm just going to be getting drunk the whole time because I don't know how often I'm going to be summoned, so...
Yeah, so the way we're doing it is every time Sam dies, she's going to have to take a big swig of her drink. I'm assuming Matt's going to do that as well.
Yeah. I got a couple of beers and a bottle of gin.
It's going to get silly, that's for sure. All right, last week's bet. We bet on Star Wars Episode 1 Racer that came out. It was re-released on the PlayStation. It was how many views would the top stream on Twitch have? Before this podcast today, I went on Twitch. No one was streaming it. I was super surprised because I saw a lot of hype about it online. And so I went to the most viewed VOD of it, and it only had 10 views. So, like, apparently no one gives a shit about this game.
Yeah.
Now, I bet it would have 500 views. Matt bet 260, and Sam bet 763. So Matt wins with the low bet, I think, just on principle. Yep. And it's kind of funny. Matt bet 260. Well, the actual amount of followers that Episode 1 Racer has is 2.6K. So I think he wins a little bit because of that, too.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet 2.600. So I got my 2.6 in there.
So as the winner, you get to give the final word and sign off the podcast.
All right. My final word is that I can't believe you erased Doom from history and Kill Your Babies. That just completely nukes like most of the video game industry and almost all first-person shooters. I'm pretty sure if Doom didn't exist, somehow World of Warcraft doesn't exist. I don't know, maybe because it's 3D.
We'll just all play Animal Crossing.
Yeah. Doom is probably the most like historically significant video game ever. I mean, no, there's Polymer. It's one of them. All right, that's my final word.
Hey, you sign off.
You know what? Everyone, stay safe in these uncertain times. I don't have anything catchy.
Bye.
Bye.